Edifier S2.1Ds have finally died after 15 years of service. I was listening to music on these this morning, and out of nowhere, they went full volume, popping and screeching. Scared the shit out of me. My cat came running over, probably scared the shit out of him. I unplugged them from the PC, and the noise was still there. So the sound wasn't coming from the PC, it was coming from the amplifier. Edifier is a well-known speaker brand now, but when these came out, they were like a new company. This was the first product. I believe these are the first speakers that they ever came out with, and they came out swinging. They went after the likes of the Klipsch Pro Media 2.1s or the Logitech Z625s, the THX 2.1 set. I have heard the Klipsch and the Logitech. And the Logitechs, they got a bigger subwoofer, but it's boomier. And the tweeters it doesn't have dedicated tweeters, so the vocals aren't as clear. These have very tight bass, clean vocals. They're closer to the Klipsch Pro Media 2.1s, in my opinion. But these do outdo both of those in one regard. These have digital inputs. So there's an optical and a coaxial Toslink SPDIF digital inputs. You've also got the analog inputs there and the remote input, that sits on your desk, and you can change the volume and the subwoofer bass level and all that. This thing sat under my computer desk for 15 years, hence the dust. Even the satellites kind of hid behind my monitors because my desk isn't very big. I got the two 27-inch monitors, pretty much take up all the space, and there's only a small amount of space for me to fit the speakers under. So yeah, not ideal. These were kind of hidden behind there. So I did want to get something a little bit smaller. I wanted to stick with Edifier. I wanted something with wood grain sides. But these aren't the ones I was initially thinking of. There's a bunch of models that Edifier makes. And some of them are more common. The R980T. But these are smaller, and like I said, I don't have a lot of room on my desk, so I thought, why not try these smaller guys out? Very small information on the box, but yeah, these are 66 watts total, RMS. I know it says total, but they mean RMS. It's the total between the two speakers. That's a lot of power for two small speakers, no subwoofer, and these are only 3-inch woofers. So these are very small speakers, but they have a lot of power. They're powered by Texas Instruments Class D amplifier, and these also have a DAC built in. So they've got Bluetooth, and they have USB Type-C, and then also an auxiliary analog input. So yeah, these are very small, but I wanted to try them out. So let's get them open here and take a look at them. I haven't seen these in person yet, so they're a little deeper than I thought maybe, but the width and the height, they're pretty small. They're very heavy. Both speakers are actually equally heavy, so I'm assuming they've weighted one of them down to compensate for the fact that like the amplifier and the electronics are going to be in one of them, right? But these are hefty little speakers. They came with aluminum stands. I actually didn't know that they were going to come with those. They showed them in the pictures, but I assumed they were just showing them in the pictures. I didn't think they came with them. These are obviously to angle the speakers upwards, so they're pointing towards you when they're on your desk. Here we got a box with all the accessories in there. I'm assuming the power adapter and the cables are going to be in here. What do we got in here? So we got RCA to 3.5 millimeter, 3.5 to 3.5 for some reason. I assume the RCA's are on the back. So mini DIN cable here. I'm assuming that's to go from one speaker to the other. And then we have USB Type-C on both ends. Yeah, C to C. If you just want to plug these into your laptop or whatever, you'll use that. And there's the power cable. No power brick. I was actually expecting a power brick, so that's nice. Let's take a look at the speakers. So this is the passive speaker. Obviously, it doesn't have the amplifier or any of the electronics in it. So we'll look at the powered one here, and Here we can see on the back we got the bass ports, we got an auxiliary in, we got a USB-C in, with a speaker out. That's that mini DIN connector to go to the other speaker. And then there's your AC power input. So yeah, internal power supply. That's nice. Again, they got this wood finish on the sides. I do wish it was like a darker color, but yeah, these come in either black or whites, or these ones that they call oak. Got rubber feet on the bottom. Again, they come with the aluminum stands. They also have rubber feet on the stands. Size-wise, these are a little bit smaller than my previous satellites from my S2.1. But of course, as the name implies, those had a subwoofer. These do not. So these are 2 speakers, just 2.0, no subwoofer. These are $200 Canadian. It's about 144 US. It's, again, a little bit more than I thought I was going to spend. But when I saw the size and the wood finish, I thought, you know what? The last pair lasted me like 15 years. If I get, 10 or 15 years out of these, then it's, worth spending. The fact these have the DAC is cool. I don't necessarily need that, but these are a very clean and elegant design. I kind of get what they're going for when you look at the promotional brochures and they show them like, plugged into like a MacBook Air or something. But having USB-C or the DAC in the speakers means that if you're plugging these into a laptop or a desktop that has really crappy integrated audio, you're not using that internal DAC on the motherboard. These will show up as their own audio device. They have their own DAC built in. The Bluetooth's nice. I'm probably never going to use it. I never understood the point of Bluetooth on desktop speakers. These aren't like portable. They're not battery powered. They're going to sit on your desk plugged into the wall for power. At that point, they're probably plugged into your computer. I'm not going to use the Bluetooth, but it's there. An elegant part of the design is the fact that you may have noticed the lack of a volume knob. These have like touch-sensitive buttons on the top that they glow through the wood, and that'll show your volume up, down, and power. The power button indicator will change between red, green, and blue, depending on what input you're using, if it's Bluetooth, the USB DAC, or auxiliary in.
Take me out tonight, where there's music and there's people and the young and the light. Driving in your car, I never want to go home, because I haven't got one anymore. Hey, little girl, is your daddy home? Did he go and leave you all alone? I got a bad desire. Oh, I'm on fire. Tell me now, baby, is he good to you? And can he do to you the things that I do? I can take you high.
Okay, so They have a lot of mid bass, and the highs, like the snares, hit really hard. You can tell there's a lot of power in terms of like in the amplifier for how small of a speaker it is. Now, the thing is, there's a little bit of distortion or vibration of the box, I suppose, right in at about 150 hertz, which makes for a very strange speaker because with most music, I think they sound really good for their size. Most people expecting these to be monitors and seeing that they're 3-inch woofers wouldn't expect them to have a lot of bass, and I think they got more punchy mid bass than most people would expect, and the highs are very powerful. Again, with most music, they sound pretty good for their size, but on the flip side, just watching a lot of YouTube where it's just like a dude talking, the voices do not sound that good, which is very strange. I never would have thought that would be the issue with these. My previous pair, listening to people talk on YouTube, their voices sounded great. But with these speakers, their voices sound like they're in a tunnel. Now, there was a firmware upgrade, and I did the firmware update, and the firmware update literally said it fixes an issue in the 150 hertz range. And I think it helped a little bit, but they're still not as good as my previous speakers when I'm just, listening to someone talk on YouTube. Now, when it comes to music, if you install the app on your phone, you can pair it with the Bluetooth, and you can change the equalizer settings, even while you're listening to them on the USB DAC, which is funny because I thought you'd have to unconnect from the USB DAC, pair them to Bluetooth, change the settings, and then go back to the USB DAC. But no, you can change the equalizer settings while you're listening to them on USB DAC, even though you're connected with Bluetooth at the same time. So that's cool. And again, for the size, these sound better than I think most people would expect. The issue is if you can do with just slightly larger speakers, I think some of their cheaper models might suit you better, especially if you don't necessarily need the DAC or the Bluetooth. I think you could get away with some of the cheaper models. I wanted the smaller speaker. I wanted it to be able to fit under the monitor, and this just barely fits where I wanted it to fit. And I wanted the smaller speaker, and I wanted the looks of these. So I paid a little bit more, and for the most part, I'm happy with them. Again, music, they sound pretty good. For their size, I think they sound really good. But yeah, just people talking is weird. It's weird how that, how someone's just voice talking can sound like they're in a hollow tube. For speakers, it sounds so good for music. So, do I recommend these speakers? I don't know. They're kind of expensive. They weren't on sale when I bought them, but yet most of the other Edifier models were on sale. So it seems like Edifier speakers in general, most of them are on sale a lot of the time. And when I bought these ones, they weren't on sale, so I kind of paid even more for them than probably I should have. But again, I wanted them same day, Amazon. It was like Amazon Prime shipping same day. And I wanted the smaller size. I knew that I was paying more for these than their lower again, the R980 or the R12? I think it's like the 1280T. A couple of those models that are physically bigger, even though they have less power. These have a lot of power. Again, 66 watts RMS is a lot of power for a small speaker. The issue is, I don't think most people need that much power in a small speaker. These are near-field speakers. They're desktop speakers. They're meant that you're going to be sitting right in front of them. And I think these can get way louder than anyone would ever need. So having the less powerful speaker with the bigger woofer for most people, and they're a little bit cheaper, would probably be better. I knew I was paying more for these, for their smaller size. And I knew that I was downgrading coming from, I think the old pair I had was almost 200 watts RMS, with the subwoofer. I knew I was downgrading from a larger pair of speakers with a big subwoofer to a smaller pair of speakers without a subwoofer, and I was willing to sacrifice there. These definitely don't have as much bass as the previous pair, obviously, but again, for their small size, they do have a fair bit of punchy mid-bass, these probably sound better than most people would expect for their size. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not necessarily saying that I recommend them or not. Definitely compare them with other speakers, even within Edifier's own range. And of course, there's a lot of other brands now out there making really nice speakers, honestly, for less money than these. I wanted to stick with Edifier because the last pair lasted me 15 years. And yeah, a little bit of brand loyalty there paid off for them today. So I'm not necessarily saying buy these or even buy Edifier in general, but Edifier did me well with the last pair, and these, for their small size, do sound really good. You're just going to pay a little bit more for them.